in the time to appreciate how we gather, and that we have a place to gather. And of course, both the technology that Common Ground pays for and the room and building that the community put together. To practice receiving just the generosity of all the people before us, all the way back to the Buddha, right? And all the folks before us who, they had complicated lives, and they somehow practice in one generation after another for 2,600 years. These teachings have been passed down. It's just good to, at the beginning of a program, just to have a sense that we're the beneficiaries of so much wisdom and persistence and generosity, just to let it hit home. Be grateful, feel loved and supported in that simple way. Most of us these days, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that a lot of us are really good at catastrophizing. And I think, part of it is just the way it is, but part of it is just the information age. And we just have so much, it's just so easy to pay attention to something that scares us, whatever it might be. The fact that someone didn't respond to us in social media, or we read the news, or whatever it might be. And so when we have the good fortune to be part of something that's, in a simple way, beautiful, wholesome, and good, we really want to pay attention to that, because it really matters what we pay attention to. Today, as a topic, I want to talk about tranquility, and so we'll take that as a theme in our meditation as well. But the thing about tranquility, the Buddha's teaching on tranquility, calm, serenity. The first thing that often comes to our mind is, yeah, I really would like some of that calm and serenity. And then we list all the conditions in my life. I'm too busy, I can't sit, and we have a lot of good, like a lawyer, we have a lot of good evidence why we shouldn't be tranquil or serene. But tranquility, the approximate cause for tranquility is paying attention to the experience of tranquility. I know it sounds a little chicken and egg, but you'll see, in a moment when we start meditating, which is really not that different than what we're doing right now, just we're here being aware of what's coming and going in our experience. It's like you could hear the words I'm saying, and you could pay attention to thoughts we might have about, I'm such a bad meditator. Well, is that going to support tranquility? Sort of listing all the reasons why we think we're a bad meditator? But how about a sincere interest in any evidence, any subtle or ordinary experience of settledness or peacefulness or groundedness or ease that's here now? It may not be the predominant quality of your body and mind, but that doesn't mean it's not here and now to some degree, right? But it's interesting that we're not even though tranquility, serenity is pleasant, we're not that interested in kind of letting it come into the forefront of attention. So let's settle into our meditation posture, whatever that's like for you. Feeling at home in our body as best we can. And of course, it won't be perfect. There may be some discomfort. Finding this helpful combination of being relaxed in the body, in the posture, but also somewhat upright. We want to support a brightness and alertness, and also we want to support a relaxation, a softening, a releasing of the bodily tensions. So see what that balance might feel like, look like for you today. Take a couple of deeper, easy, longer breaths in and out. Take your time. Do this as a way of soothing the nervous system, filling and emptying the lungs in a relaxed way. And then scanning through the body, inviting relaxation, especially those places where there's a tendency to hold tension, like at the brow and the eyes. And just invite a letting go, a softening, forehead, temples, and the jaw is a common place, and the shoulders, and the arms and hands, softening, relaxing. We're not at war. We don't need to be in conflict with the way it is. So we encourage the belly to soften, even the pelvis can release. We let the structure of the spine do the supporting. So the alignment itself does a lot of the work of keeping the body upright. And then just taking some time now and valuing tranquility and peacefulness and serenity. Just remembering that we value it. That tranquility is good. It's wholesome. It's healing. It's even pleasant. And of course, one of the real supports for tranquility is, as I mentioned, just being interested in it. But also understanding some of the initial causes for tranquility. Like knowing that it matters what we pay attention to. And a lot of where the mind, the attention might go, well, maybe we don't have to go there now. So we develop a clear and persistent course. I'm not going to think about the news, or I'm not going to think about this and that right now. Maybe later, but not now. Now I'm choosing to be interested in the experience of the body being settled, the body being relatively at ease, that it's safe now to relax, put down the armor and offendedness. It's safe to soften, safe to open. Don't need to problem solve. I don't need to figure things out. And you might find it helpful to just repeat a word. You could coordinate it with the rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. It can be as simple as repeating the word in your heart, in your mind, peace, with each exhalation. And as you say that word in your mind, you're remembering that you value tranquility, peacefulness. And it could be the word ease, it could be the word serenity, or any word that you find supportive. But you need to connect the repetition of the word with a real valuing. It's like this quality of calm is a birthright, that it's here and now, but unnoticed. And we're vowing to keep it in mind as best we can. This possibility for peace. And instead of paying attention to places in the body that are unpleasant, it's better to notice the places in the body, the qualities of the mind that are settled and at ease. For example, maybe the hands are at ease on our knees in our lap. So when you say the word peace or ease, we feel how relaxed the hands are, or how released the face is, or whatever it might be. In this way, we're learning how to keep tranquility or ease in mind. Allowing it to naturally spread. And of course, even if a difficult experience remains, maybe the mind, the heart can relate to it with ease, with calm, with serenity. Oh yeah, sometimes it's like this. There's pain in the shoulders. Can the heart be at ease with this? Relate with ease. So without being in denial of our lives and our responsibilities, we're just prioritizing ease and peace and calm and tranquility. We're training the mind to keep this wholesome quality in mind as best we can and noticing the effects. We'll continue in silence now. Simply recognizing what the mind is paying attention to and wondering if this is supportive of more tranquility or of more agitation. How to keep tranquility in mind, sitting with the body, noticing the other wholesome qualities of the mind. How to keep the experience of calm and ease and peace in mind. And if you haven't experimented with using a meditation word, repeating it at a relaxed pace, perhaps with each exhalation, just to see if that's supportive for you. It may be, maybe it's not. But it could be helpful to keep this quality of calm in mind. Take a little time, adjust your body as you need to. Again, a big welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming today. Thanks for Tim and Jenny for stepping in to be your program hosts. So usually at the end of the month, I just remind us all how this place has come to be and this circle of generosity. And we often use the Pali word of dana. So if you hear that word, it's not a name, dana, but this D-A-N-A, usually translated as giving or generosity, but it's kind of a deep spiritual teaching the Buddha gave about the circle of giving and receiving. And it's like a shift in perspective. And you can think about this in terms of your important relationships you have in life, or your relationship to your job, even if you work at some big institution or corporation, and even your relationship to the wider community, the Minneapolis or whatever your community is, and the different sub-communities that are important in your life. And just think of them as a circle of giving and receiving. Like, how can I get better at receiving whatever I get from that relationship? How can I learn to be aware of how, just how supportive that relationship is, and to appreciate that it's a gift, not a perfect gift, right? Like, you may have a lot of problems with the city or the place that you live, but you probably can appreciate some of the things like roads and snow plowing or whatever it is, right? Oh yeah. And to receive that as a gift, that happens because people have organized themselves and people pay their taxes, and I get to benefit from this. And then when we give, when we pay our taxes or whatever, we imagine giving that freely. We practice giving it freely. I want this money. I know the system is imperfect, but I want this money to be supportive. I want people who don't have what they need to be supported. I want roads where we need roads, and clean water where we need clean water. And just to feel that circle. And so that's how it works at Common Ground too. We're an ordinary nonprofit. We have paid staff, we have this building, we have our retreat center in West Wisconsin. And, we support our teachers so that they can pay their bills. But the way it works, we don't charge, we don't have suggested donations, and we don't really fundraise like a lot of nonprofits do. We just remind folks every once in a while, like I'm doing right now, about this circle. And just inviting us all to remember, whatever your particular relationship with Common Ground is, to take it as a free gift. It happens because of people before us have contributed and volunteered and done the many things that make this place the way it is. And we're the recipients. And I think this is actually the harder part, is learning how to receive freely, to really let it land as a free gift, no strings attached. That's why we don't have suggested donations, because then it becomes a lot like a fee. And then if you decide to give back or volunteer your time or just send your good wishes, then that's a free gift, because what you've received was given freely. You don't have to give anything back. That was given freely. So you have to learn to take that as a free gift. And then you give because you want to give, because it makes you happy to give. So I don't, why it isn't true for me, and I don't expect it's true for you. This is not easy. It's kind of, it'd be so much easier just to have a fee, for programs. And you don't have to rush into it. You can kind of experiment or check it out. Like, this is a little weird. How does this work? But like I said, we're just like any other nonprofit in terms of our, expenses. Our annual budget is around $400,000 a year. And somehow now for 30 years, this circle of giving and receiving has worked well enough for us. And we own the building here without debt, and we own the retreat property in Western Wisconsin without debt, only because people, hopefully in ways that make them happy, give. volunteer their time, contribute money, and we support our staff, our paid staff, and our teachers, and that's how it all works. And of course, there's more information on the website. You can talk with Tim. He'll be around a little bit afterward, and Jenny. Jenny is in the room over here. If you have any questions, or come up to me, or just reach out to Nancy Bowler, who's a longtime yoga teacher here, our main yoga teacher, but also is our bookkeeper. So if you have any kind of practical questions about how it all works, you can just reach out to the center. Great. So I've been enjoying, once again, I've read it a few times, this wonderful collection of teachings by one of the more influential teachers in our recent early Buddhist tradition, in the sense of like what has allowed these teachings to come here to the West. And this person's name is Ajahn Chah. Ajahn is just a respectful term for a monastic teacher in the Thai forest tradition. So Cha is his name, Ajahn Chah. And he died in the 1990s, but was really influential. Some of our Western teachers practiced with Ajahn Chah as monks in Thailand, like Jack Kornfield for a while, Ajahn Sumedho, many others. And then they brought the teachings here to the West. And you can get your own copy if you want it. I've been putting in the chat for those of you who are online, and but also for those in the room, a document that has my notes for each of the talks I'm giving, which are some of the excerpts from the chapters. And then also there's a link for the book itself. You can get a free digital copy if you want to read along or just read on your own. And this particular chapter, as I mentioned, is about tranquility. And it's really, I want to challenge myself and all of us to take a good look at our relationship to calm and tranquility. Because theoretically, we might like the idea of calm, and we might, make a case that calm is a good thing. But when we actually look at the choices moment by moment through our days, what we do with our mind, are we doing things with our mind that supports calm or agitation? Even relatively harmless things I've noticed, because I've started to pay attention more and more. I do some of those puzzles online, New York Times has a few that I like, Wordle and Connections and the Easy crossword. They have a very simple crossword now for those of us who are not up for their main crossword puzzle. And but I notice, like, when I watch my mind doing that, it's agitated. It's tense. And sometimes I'll just stop. It's like, what am I doing? I gotta figure this out. It's like, oh, that's unnecessary suffering. Is there a way that this activity, that the interest and the brightness, like, can that be there without disturbing the heart? It's like the difference between intense competition and play. I mean, you can be quite intense in play. Like when my family, every once in a while I join them, but I have a lot of siblings and their partners and their kids, and they play pickleball, all of them, most of them at least. And sometimes I'll join. And the thing about it is, even though people are all in when they play, you don't get the sense that people are getting tight about it, because it's family and it's not about winning as much as it is about having fun. Because a lot of times we dismiss tranquility. We have an idea, this is a caffeinated society. We have an idea that unless things are really intense, life isn't worth living. And greed and hatred is intense. We feel alive when we're really excited about getting something, or self-righteous, rage. It's enlivening. And the thing about tranquility, initially, the tranquility that a typical person knows about, who hasn't really done a deep study, is the tranquility associated with sleepiness. And that's a pleasant tranquility, that when we're kind of dead to the world and had a busy day and we sit down on the couch or we lie down on the couch probably, and we feel that kind of we filled the belly, no more work for today. And there's a kind of sinking tranquility. And it's really nice, just to notice that. Or even if you've just been physically active and then lie down, there's a basic tranquility of like the mind has put down some load at that point, whatever it is. But that tranquility comes with dullness. This is sort of one of those principles I've taught for many decades now, the introduction class. Some of you probably have taken it with me. But one of the things I always say on the first night of the intro class is I talk about this seemingly paradoxical, these two qualities that seem to be opposite, or calm, relaxation, and interest, brightness, alertness, right? And we tend to think like, well, I know what it is to be calm, to be relaxed, and I know what it is to be alert and interested and bright. But do we know those two things together? And have we learned, has the mind wisdom learned how they actually support each other? It's like being relaxed, being settled, being calm really supports alertness, clarity, brightness. And being bright, being alert, being interested really supports relaxation. One thing I've been doing almost every day now for more than 40 years, since I got interested in spiritual practice in my early 20s, is doing a deep relaxation every day. I mean, you could call it a nap, but it's really intentional. Like, at least now I've injured my back from the medications I've been on. Had some injuries because anyway. So now I do it the point is I do it more than once a day now. And I'll lie down in corpse pose. Some of you know Savasana, it's a yoga pose. It's just lying on your back, arms comfortably apart, legs comfortably apart. Maybe support the back of your head a little bit. Usually not on a bed, usually do it on the floor or a stiffer mattress, like I have a futon that I can use so that it's not too comfortable, right? And I'll start the meditation object is the pleasantness of lying down, right? So that's what you keep in mind, is how pleasant it is right now, especially in the middle of the day, to lie down. And you keep that in mind. And it's this basic principle I think I mentioned in the guided meditation that the proximate cause, like the way to deepen our subjective experience of peace, calm, tranquility, is to keep it in mind. And we want to learn that this is actually true. It's not just some theory. But when you keep peace in mind, it develops. Just like when I keep my attention on what's agitating, agitation develops, right? If I keep like noticing the one person in the room that's for whatever reason is upsetting me, well, that person over there. I was like, what are they thinking about? Why are they yawning all the time? We just get more upset, or even revisiting some difficult experience we had 2 days ago. And it's like, but it's totally understandable because the mind tends to go to where it assumes there's a threat. And, it's kind of that part of the mind is sort of blunt. It's not that sophisticated. So if there's a wound or some unresolved pain from some interaction we had a few days ago or even 20 years ago, the mind, just that catastrophizing or fearful animal mind, is just kind of wants to look at it, just in the same way we pick at a scab. Is this healing? You know? No, because you keep touching it. And it's not so different. It doesn't mean that we don't need to revisit those places of unresolved pain. What it does mean, though, approaching those places of unresolved pain or things that scare us in our lives, like death or politics or whatever it might be, to approach those things with an agitated mind, how productive is that? It's not very productive. It doesn't lead to deeper healing and the unwinding of what needs to be unwound. It tends to lead to things getting wound up more and more because this is one of the real advantages. Like another truism in Buddhist practice is tranquility is the proximate cause for the deepening of wisdom. Even the tranquility that comes from secluding ourselves from what agitates us. So that's okay. Like we want to be wise about, I mean, it would be great to learn how to be tranquil with being right in the middle of our lives with all that agitates us. But we have to be honest with ourselves. I'm not there yet. I can't like be meditating and have my desk with all my bills right in front of me, or the pictures of all my exes, or, whatever it might be. Or even like your cat in the same room as you, that there's a reason that humans have built quiet retreat spaces, or even in the middle of the city, the community, all of those, hundreds, thousands of people, they spent a lot. This was just a greasy restaurant. I don't know if people from the area probably remember the pink family diner. It was all pink, even the stucco. And it was a mess, when we bought it in 2006. And just the work that the community and all the money, close to $1 million between the purchase and the renovation of the place. And to create a relatively tranquil place in the middle of the city. And even all the garden space that you see around the building, you should check it out. Kathleen and Mark and the many volunteers for years have been developing this beautiful garden space. But it was all blacktop when we bought it. There was no garden space at all around the building. All that work, all the money that was contributed, just so we could have the same thing with the retreat center. If you haven't been out there, you got to get yourself out to the retreat center at some point. It's really a beautiful place for practice. It's small. It's really more of a family-sized retreat center for 15 to 20 people max. And often it's smaller groups than that. But that just knowing how important it is. So even in your apartment or your home, having a little corner that's relatively uncluttered, where you put a few things that for you are really beautiful, like a particular plant or a particular book, or even some of you who have a more devotional type, you have like a statue of the Buddha, or whatever photograph or statue is conducive of calm and serenity. And the kind of chair or the kind of cushion you have there, any artwork that you have there. And it's just practical, like, well, what is the effect of my mind when I go to that place? And some of us have that place, whether it's a place up north or a park, a place in some park near your home, or whatever it might be, that just supports the experience of serenity because we've removed ourselves from what is agitating, and we put ourselves in an environment that is soothing. Some of us have been to some, holy places, sacred places that have a very distinct vibration of calm and tranquility. I can remember several places I've had the good fortune of being at where it's like, doesn't matter how agitated my mind was. I walk into the space and it was like the space itself had a very powerful vibration of peace. And you can just like that sympathetic resonance. And the same thing with who we hang around with. It's not about judgment or hating people. It's just about noticing that it really matters who we hang around with. And we hang around some people and we get agitated. And we hang around other people and we feel more settled. And these are just, we just want to be practical about this, because if we truly value calm and how being calm allows us to be more wise and skillful as we navigate our lives, well, then we're going to start making different choices because they matter, these choices we make. And that's really the first part of tranquility, is just understanding I can support calm by, right, it's really retreating or removing ourselves from what's agitating. And this is really the first basic skill in meditation practice. So even if you're sitting at home and it's not particularly a calm place, it still really matters what we do with our attention once we sit, and whether the eyes are open or closed. And if the eyes are open or closed, like what are we aware of visually? What are we aware of in terms of hearing? Like, because a lot of that we don't have to, if there's, like last Sunday, some of you were here and they were working on the lawn next door and they had those blowers. It was, that loud, irritating sound for most of us. But we don't have to pay attention to that sound, even if it's relatively loud, right? We can notice other things. And like we did today in the guided meditation, there may be all kinds of different sensations in the body, but is there at least one place in the body where there's a peaceful vibe, a sense of the bodily relaxation? Well, can I go there? Can I be aware of that? And there's a way of that tranquility, that sense of embodied well-being spreading. But the key is to start where it's relatively easy. Don't go where it's relatively hard. That place you've got that ancient knot in your heart or in your gut or, whatever. Like I notice my left shoulder, like whenever I'm sort of problem solving, that just goes up. But I don't necessarily want to always pay attention to that pattern. Sometimes it's useful to deconstruct it with awareness, wisdom and awareness. But initially, when we're sitting, we want to develop some deeper tranquility. Because then when other things come to mind, like, ways that we're holding, the having invested in calm and tranquility will illuminate those other patterns so much more. Like if we're sitting or we've spent the day really keeping tranquility in mind, and then we have a very difficult interaction with another person and it triggers a lot of shame or a lot of rage or whatever strong emotion it might be. Well, with that background of calm, I have the opportunity to really look and see something I haven't seen before about that strong emotion that just got triggered. I'm going to see it more as a natural phenomena, an impersonal phenomena, that rage, that humiliation, that shame, whatever it might be. Because there's sort of we're cultivating this background or this space of tranquility. It's really the fruit of long-term practice. I mentioned earlier, I've been practicing since 1982, really regularly, if not every day, almost every day. Lots of retreat practice. And now, even when things are really hairy, and I've had just this last week some difficult experiences, even when things are hairy, difficult, intense, even when shame or humiliation or regret has been triggered by some circumstance, I can meet that because in a sense, I'm mixing the two together. I'm aware of that deep pool of peace, and I'm aware of that strong emotion that's moving. And it's that tranquility, that deep sense of ease, of peace, of calm, that actually allows the heart to be intimate with the strong emotions that get triggered from time to time. Otherwise, we just get swept away by the strong emotions. We're not actually intimate with them. We identify with them, or we identify with not wanting them. But in one way, we get locked in, and there's no sense of space to observe what's moving in the heart and the body. Oh, there's a lot of rage moving, or there's a lot of embarrassment moving, or there's a lot of regret moving, and it feels like this. Well, can this be okay? What's moving in my heart? Now imagine if we woke up every morning or had a time every day where we generate the, the sort of sincere sense, right, actual sense in my heart that I value calm, I value peacefulness, I value tranquility. Above all else, it's like it will help us in every aspect of our lives. So we put it at the top. It will support the deepening of wisdom. It's pleasant here and now, as the Buddha often would say. You know, it's a happy, pleasant quality of mind right now, let alone what it sets in motion. And it breaks some really unproductive habits. This, sometimes we call it catastrophizing, but that strong tendency of our attention, the mind's attention, to look for threats. And if we don't have any obvious threats, we can imagine them, right? We can imagine bad stuff happening to us or bad stuff happening to the world. Stock market crash, or my dog's getting older, or, my partner is taking a trip and will they make it back? And it's like all kinds of things to worry about. And so to remember that, oh yeah, all day long, choices are being made. And some of those choices will be the cause for agitation. And sometimes the choice could be the cause for peacefulness. And it's not like we can always avoid experiences or interactions or engagement with what's disturbing, obviously. But even in that, like one of the things a lot of us have learned over the years, for example, when things are rough and it's a difficult interaction or a difficult experience we're in the middle of, is to be in the body or to be with the breath. Because if I've been training for years and years to associate breathing in and breathing out with a sense of acceptance and tranquility and allowing, then even in the midst of some difficult circumstance, we can be with the breath. And we're just, like I was saying earlier, we're infusing that moment with some tranquility, with that sense of ground or space, even as we have to navigate something that's difficult. And not to presume, like when you're in a difficult sense, like sometimes we wrongly think that it's wrong to be tranquil when something is off or something's bad is happening, or I did something wrong. Oh, I shouldn't feel good because I really blew it here. So I think it's good just to reflect, like bring something to mind that's current in your life or maybe happened a while ago, and where we somehow have this idea that tranquility, peacefulness, ease, calm doesn't belong there. Is calm ever inappropriate? There's another one of those sort of teachings in our tradition is that being around somebody who's calm is irritating for someone who's agitated. Have you noticed that in your life? It's like you're all worked up about something, and then one of your friends is kind of, just sort of settled and not disturbed. And it's like, you kind of want to shake them like that bumper sticker that was popular for a while. If you're not, what is it? If you're not upset, you're not paying attention, something like that. I don't know if people saw that. But we want to actually check out, like, given that the world is the way it is, given that our life is the way that it is, given that there's birth, aging, sickness, and death, what's actually a helpful quality to be cultivating? Agitation or calm? What actually helps us to be a kinder and wiser human being as we take care of business in our lives, our responsibilities? So it's not about using calm, like, even though a lot of initially what we do to develop some competency around calm is we withdraw. Like when we're sitting, we don't let the attention go to what's agitating, right? We come back to the breath, or we come back to the body, or we come back to kindness. Right there, we have all these tricks, all these skillful means we use to seclude the mind from what would be otherwise agitating. But then as we develop more tranquility, it's still going to get upset. I mean, eventually, at least, the sit will end, and then we'll be back in the world. And we'll see that transition from the whatever tranquility we had in our meditation to now that we're moving, now that we're seeing stuff, now that we're talking, checking social media, things are going to push our buttons. Greed and aversion will get triggered. And but from the context of calm. And we'll see more clearly, little by little, we'll see more clearly that the reaction of greed and the reaction of aversion is not helpful. That's not personal. Like when I am greedy, when I am aversive, it seems on the surface personal, but from the ground of being calm, we see the arising of aversion as a natural process. Oh, it's sort of like when there's this, then the aversion arises. When I see dog poop on my on my sidewalk or on my grass, then aversion arises. And then, but you see it in that kind of cool, tranquil way, like, oh yeah, that's how it is sometimes. So there's the beginning of that deep insight that these reactive patterns of the mind are not personal. They're nature. If it's a natural process, you don't actually do the aversion, you don't actually do the greed. It's something that we recognize. Wisdom recognizes it. Oh yeah, that's greed. That's aversion. And that's what calm does. And that leads to a deeper kind of tranquility. The first kind of tranquility arises because we've gotten skillful at secluding the mind, the heart, from what agitates it. So we're sitting and the mind wants to think about something, and wisdom says, yeah, you could think about that, but you're going to get agitated. Let's just stay with the meditation object. And the peacefulness, that peaceful feeling of just being with breathing in and just being with the out breath. And it seems like, how can that help me? But if we don't know how to put things down, see, by just being with the in breath for that, whatever that is, 4 seconds, 10 seconds, then we're not attending to what's agitating. Because for most of us, the sensations of breathing in is not an agitating experience. It's a calming experience because it's so ordinary. Or being with the body, especially not the pain in the body, but just the general sense of sitting, or this general sense of hearing. Not hearing the sounds that irritate you, but just the whole cacophony together, the whole orchestra of the present moment sounds. Yeah, hearings like this. See how calming it is right now. Like just the bodily sense of the bodily experience of sitting, breathing. hearing, walking, washing dishes, brushing teeth. So many of the activities that fill our day are neutral in this way, that they're not, when we really bring the attention to them, they're calming, they're not agitating. Every time you turn a light switch on, generally we don't pay attention, but for most of us, it doesn't generate greed or aversion. It doesn't trigger it, right? It's just a reaching and flicking. And walking from the kitchen to this place, it's not. So when we bring that full attention, it becomes a calming experience. And it really sets up this insight, because if we cultivate the space of calm, then every time greed and aversion, delusion gets triggered, there's more and more of a chance of seeing it for what it is. Changing, something that comes and goes, unsatisfying in the sense that if I get identified with the greed, the aversion, the delusion, it hurts, right? And impersonal. And it doesn't really help us to know that everything changes and is unsatisfying and impersonal, but it profoundly changes us to see it in living color in the moment. And we can't see it without that foundation of calm. If I see anger in myself when my mind is agitated, I don't really see anger, right? The agitation, the mind that's knowing it, if it's agitated, we don't see it clearly. I don't see the impersonal nature, the changing nature, the unsatisfying nature. It feels like so appropriate to get identified with the anger, doesn't it? The Buddha calls it murderously sweet, right? That's only because we don't have that foundation of tranquility. When we have that foundation of tranquility, aversion appears as it actually is, agitating. It doesn't actually subjectively, in our own felt sense of me, I, me, mine here, right here, aversion never makes sense when the heart mind is calm. Hatred never makes sense. Greed never makes sense when we're calm. Distractedness doesn't make sense when we're calm. We use distractedness when we're not calm. We're agitated. You notice when you're agitated, it's like we get desperate for distraction. Where can I get lost? Because I don't want to feel my agitation. So I want to absorb into some media or, whatever it is that we absorb, eat something. But when we're calm, contentedness is close at hand. It's like, yeah, I could eat something. It's that would be unpleasant, but I'm already content. I'm already appreciating the pleasure of calm, of being settled. But we have to cultivate that taste for calm. And that, that would be great, like next week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks to check in, and like you have a meditation buddy, and every week you check in, like how much deeper is your appreciation of calm? So you really start to recognize it for what it is. It's like healing. It's protecting. It's conducive for the deepening of wisdom. It's so good just on that sort of bodily health level, as a counterweight to the stressfulness of modern life, to be able to have that experience more regularly of calm. So with that last comment, about having spiritual friendship, one of the things that we do at the end of our Sunday morning programs is that we divide the group into anybody who would like to stay for 15 minutes, just to have small groups, both here in the room or in the building, and also all of you online. So just keep that in mind, because one of the real causes for calm is realizing that, like, what's going on inside us, that it's not so different than what's going on inside of other people. And that's really the value, just that normalization of having a mind. That's really what the small groups are about. And I always say to people, like, if you're really into the practice and you want to keep deepening, if you haven't already, you got to find a friend who's as into the practice as you are, one way or another, because we're going against the cultural stream, which is about distraction and really feeding on greed and hatred, because it's like the Gil Francel says, the caffeine of the soul, greed and aversion, because it's animated. And so we're going against that stream, and it's good to have a community or at least a good friend who has similar values around calm and tranquility. And that doesn't mean that we're not forgiving when we're agitated and we don't have patience for that. Of course, we're going to get agitated, but we just want to be honest about it. Like, it's not good for me and it's not good for other people, my agitation. It's not contributing. If nothing else, I'm modeling for the rest of the world that this is what agitation looks like. It's like, and you know what? We sympathetically resonate with others. So if we're in an agitated environment, we start to feel agitated. One of the real advantages about being around somebody with a very deep practice is their tranquility, their sense of peace is really, it's almost like a transmission. And it's really nice just to feel it. Like, oh, this person is really settled. This person is deeply comfortable being who they are. And it's like that's a powerful way to learn. It's like, can I just sympathetically resonate? It's not like I'm trying to be that person, but I'm using their kind of modeling just in this more subtle way and just experiment. Well, can my heart and mind settle into the same place I'm sensing in that person? What would that be like? So feel free to stay if you'd like. A couple announcements though before we do this breakout into small groups. Shelley Graff, our other guiding teacher here at Common Ground, is coming back from their month-long retreat at the Forest Refuge. So they'll start teaching again on Wednesday night, and they'll be leading a half-day retreat on Saturday the 6th. So feel free to stay. Then we have a guest teacher coming the following weekend, Tuare Sala, very well-known teacher, one of the guiding teachers at Spear Rock, one of the main centers in this country of this style of practice, Buddhist practice, and also one of the guiding teachers at the Seattle Insight Meditation Center. They're going to give a talk on Friday the 12th, and then lead a day-long retreat on Saturday the 13th. You can find those and register for those on our website. So keep that in mind. So I'll say thank you to everyone for coming. Stay here if you want to. Oh yeah, Jillian wanted to make an announcement.
Well, it's sort of in the vein of building spirit of friendship. We have the July meeting of the parent caregiver group, mindful parent caregiving group, next Sunday, and the children's group will be available before that during this time at 10:30. Childcare will be available when the parents and caregivers are here. That starts at 12:30, but childcare will be available and babes in arms are welcome as well. So if that applies to you, we'd love to see you and be in community with you. Thanks, Mark.